Good evening. Welcome in to the Illini Inquirer podcast. It is Jeremy Werner and Derek Piper. Our long national nightmare is over, at least regional nightmare, especially for one Derek Piper, as Illinois gets its big fish in the transfer portal. Andrej Stojakovic has not only committed to Illinois, he has signed with Illinois. Top 40 transfer, former McDonald's All-American, Cal's leading scorer last season. Oh, yes, the son of couple-time NBA All-Star, Peja Stoyakovich. Be fun to see him at games as a kid that I was the Bulls fan in the 90s, but early 2000s, I kind of adopted those Kings teams as my second team there. But Derek, there's a huge get, and at the end of it, Illinois landed one of the best, transfers of this cycle, and looks like they'll be one of the better teams in the Big Ten at the end of this. So we'll break it all down, but breathe easy today, Derek.
I think it's time. I think we can breathe a little bit. It's funny. I think back to last year and we weren't breathing until late May into June. So I guess I should be thankful that we're doing this at this point in time. But it was a wild ride. The fact that you get into a position where you still need one of your biggest pieces. I don't want to downplay and say the biggest one because Thomas Alavis is coming back. We talked about how huge that was, and Kylan Boswell as well. But this was huge, and they were really holding out for a big splash and wanted to make sure it was the right one, and had dabbled with a few. Obviously, they would have been fine if Josh Dix is coming on board a few weeks ago. But yeah, Andrej Stojakovic, really, as far as what he's able to do production-wise, he's done more in college than Josh Dix has to this point. And when you look at who he was, like you said, as a high school prospect, McDonald's All-American, now going to go in his third year in college, he's going to be a 21-year-old, and all the things that you dig into what he can do, he's what you needed. You needed a primary scorer, you need a shot creator, a guy that has a lot of skill and ability to make plays all over the court, ball in the hand type of playmaking wing. I know we've talked about him before as kind of a cross between Will Riley and Marcus Damask. I think that's a fair comp in terms of like play style, what you're looking for, and how he can be utilized in this offense. But Illinois fell in love with him. I mean, they've had familiarity with him before with Orlando Antigua recruiting him back in high school when he was at Kentucky. And he had, all the blue blood offers, but wanted to go close to home out in Cali, and high academic institutions been important to him. He goes to Stanford and then Cal. And I think that helped Illinois too, because they're one of those in the portal. So, yeah, I think that as soon as he became available, it was clear he was their A1 target. Now I know it gets tense in the heat of it, and a day or two in portal world is an eternity for some people, especially on the message boards. But I mean, he was in the portal for all of like 10 days, and now he's in Illini. He only took one visit. This was kind of an open and shut recruitment for the most part, and that speaks to what Illinois put on the table for him, money wise, fit wise, everything, and how much they liked him.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Derek, like how they landed it, but you pretty much covered it there because once he hit the portal, like you and I knew, like that this is a guy that they would really want, and they did, and they went full bore. But it's amazing like how our perspective has changed because prep recruitments used to last like 3 years, right? And all of that angst, all of that like thought is now condensed into like a week or two. So, like, when a guy goes in the portal, Illinois is going to go after that guy. Orlando Antigua likes him, has the history with him. Illinois got a great sell for him that I think obviously appealed to him of their development on the wing, whether it is a Damask or Will Riley or Terrence Shannon. Like, he's got to take notice of what that offense has done to prepare guys for the next level. Kasper Siakashonis. So that made sense. So the fact that it took like a week felt like an eternity to people, even though this guy that everybody wanted, like North Carolina, Stanford. There was potential that they go back there, given his connections out in that area and in the high academics they have, and they got good coaches there too. So there were some big time programs sniffing around here. So Illinois landed him fairly quickly. It's just nowadays, like it feels forever when you feel like you get him on campus and then he doesn't commit right away or sign right away or doesn't get announced right away. But it never felt like Illinois wasn't going to land him once he entered the portal.
Right. No, I 100% agree with that. And he was in the portal for all of maybe 24 hours or less. And Illinois was already on with a Zoom with him and his family. And he obviously quickly scheduled a visit to get on campus. And it was the only one, obviously, that he took. I think when you go in to the portal as the perceived leader, you just understand that there's a real opportunity to try to strike when it's hot and when you're rolling, and try not to have something shift within that. So I get why there can be the questions from a fan side of like, is something changing in recruiting forever? If you host a guy on an official visit and it's closing time, you want that to be done very soon, either on the visit or very soon after. So the fact that it went a few more days, the fact that we saw continued reported North Carolina interest, that's not one of those programs you're like, oh, well, we should easily beat North Carolina. Like, Carolina is Carolina for a reason, and they're kind of in a desperate situation on the wing.
I was going to say who's in the better spot right now, but the money that is involved, the obvious program sells itself.
For sure. And I would be led to believe that they have a lot of money still to make some moves. They haven't had a great offseason. Drake Powell on the wing declared for the draft, and I know there's been an inkling that he's probably going to stay in. So they had urgency to try as hard as they could in this recruitment. I'd heard that Florida tried really hard to stick in there and try to make a real move for him. You saw on the front end, like Gonzaga was mentioned, UConn was mentioned, Kentucky before they got Aberdeen from Florida was another team that had interest off the bat. They've already made a lot of additions, but a place with a lot of big money. But like you said, Illinois was targeting him as the A1 option. I think it became clear both around the program, so the local side of it, but also nationally. It was pretty well nationally known. It didn't take long for it to be like, okay, Illinois is the team to beat, and that you want to be able to close that thing down. And ultimately, obviously, they did, and it didn't take all that long in hindsight. But yes, you do get caught in the moment, and it's like, oh boy, is something changing? Here we go again. The people who got all the worries about the mystery wings or the mystery player that comes in, and do those guys end up at Illinois? We've had examples where it doesn't, the Ray J. Dennis's of the world, the TJ Holyfields of the world, but this is a good one. This is a good one for Illinois.
Illinois could have gone all in on Josh Dix. At some point, like they could have kept pushing the chips into the table. They could have kept going with the skyrocketing price of Dame Sarr, which kudos to him. But obviously, they have ideas of who could enter the portal, and they wanted to wait for Andrej Stojakovic. And again, we are just like 6 weeks from the end of the season, right? This is not an eternity. Like this is usually lasted into May. But Derek, why do you think he became their A1 option? As you said, what do they see about his game that made him like the prime target of, hey, if we have the most expensive guy that we want to spend money on this offseason, why is it Andrej Stojakovic?
I think it's a guy that you can run offense through, a guy that you can comfortably put the ball in his hands and have him be able to make a lot of different plays. He at Cal last year, if you look at his usage, played as much in ball screens as he did as a spot up. So he's someone that essentially ran like a point guard type of role for them last year. So he's been effective and being able to, similar to like a Will Riley, off the bounce, create his own shot, and that's important. You look into crunch time moments in games when you need one, when offense is tough to run, and you just need somebody that can create their own look. This offense needs that. They obviously have Tommy as a facilitator, as a big man that can step out, and you can run actions off of him. And cutting, I think that's something that as we look into what he can bring, it's similar also, I think, to Will Riley, is a bigger wing that can cut down the lane and have that be an advantage. So I think that's something that really stood out to them. The shooting is something he did really well in high school. It's obviously part of his bloodlines. He hasn't shot the three up to his capabilities, or at least what was perceived early on, 32% from three thus far. And I don't think that Illinois is sitting there saying, well, we'll just snap our fingers and he'll be a 40% guy at Illinois. But it's something that they feel like he can climb with his efficiency, especially in a better situation, and an offense that has more options, and an offense that is obviously going to create a lot of spacing, so that can maybe free him up some. I think, as we talked about here recently, experience is something that Brad Underwood has really wanted to lean into. So in contrast to Adame Sarr, Dame's uber talented, maybe even a lottery pick to be after another year. I think that going all in on Stoyakovich was because he's got 2 years of high major experience under his belt. Will go into his third, will be 21. And with that, you get a higher level of floor and a foundation to really build off of. So I think Ian Jackson's another guy. North Carolina now he ends up at St. John's, which was kind of similar to Illinois and Stoyakovich as the team that everybody pointed to as soon as he went in the portal. Maybe it doesn't matter where Illinois ends up going. If they push all their chips there, he might still go to St. John's. But I think that's another one where Stoyakovich is just more proven in that feature role than what Ian Jackson has been to this point. So I think that helped as well. And I think they love the basketball IQ. And defensively, we'll see. I know there will be questions about athleticism on the whole of this team and some other things, but he did have 1.2 blocks a game. He is a guy that isn't a terrible athlete. He's got some length to him, and that definitely plays at both ends of the court. But yeah, older, proven, and a guy that they really respect where the background that he comes from.
Yeah, I mean, you already had a big two in Tommy and Kylan Boswell. And what's the three's got to be a wing, right? A wing who can be, if we want to call him a secondary creator, whatever it is, but can score a little bit off the bounce, shoot it, get to the rim. And when you think of, I didn't know a lot about Andrej Stojakovic before this offseason started. And the moment I turned on his film, like your preconceived notions are, oh, Peja's son, going to be really tall, lanky shooter, really good at that. But then he turned on the film, Derek, and like you said, there was a lot of Will Riley there, where it's like, oh, this guy can go off the bounce. He's not the quick burst athlete, but his size, and he's got more strength than Will because he's a couple years older, but his size and skill and just craftiness, he's able to get to the rim and finish at the rim. Most of his shots are coming at the rim, and then he's got some skill to shoot it. And as you said, his usage was so high at Cal, where he wasn't surrounded with a lot of talent, that shooting should get better. So my next question to you would be, why did Andre want to come to Illinois? Because this is a guy with an NBA ceiling, right? This could be an NBA draft pick. And obviously McDonald's All-American before. So what did he see in Illinois? What does Illinois think he can do better to get to his goal of joining his dad and that legacy and getting the NBA?
Yeah, I think prior to the NBA window, really, as guys got to either go to the portal, declare for the draft, and he at one point this spring was in the 80s range on Gavoni's big board. So he's on NBA draft radars, and I think you'd expect that for a former McDonald's All-American. And so he's certainly known at that level and has a chance to take one more big jump and really be a factor in a draft a year from now. So as he looks at Illinois, that's been a place, like you said earlier, that's elevated draft profiles for the likes of Terrence Shannon Jr., for the likes of Will Riley and Casper Jakachonis. So I think that's something that within the mold of a big guard wing that they give a lot of freedom to make plays with the ball in their hands. That's something that I would imagine that his side really saw and respected. I think from a fit standpoint, as what really impacts his game, the 5-out offense can really help him a ton. 43% of his shots last year were at the rim, where he shot it pretty well. I think 58% make rate. But he played with Matty Sissoko, the transfer from Michigan State, not a skilled at all big man, and the backup big man there at the 5 from Cal was not a floor spacing big either. So being able to open up the floor and have fives on the perimeter that give him really a free reign in the paint, going to the basket, doing some booty ball. I think that's where you can kind of get into some of the Damask stuff, some of the Will Riley stuff that, and I think just in general too, the last 2 seasons, this has been a top 15 offense in adjusted offensive efficiency. So these have been really productive offenses that have put guys in position to be really successful. The development part is really important as well. I think it speaks to, and he said it today in his quote to Gavoni that, and he obviously had to believe it in some fashion to say that they feel like I'm the piece away from them being a national title contender. Is that we can discuss what the ceiling ultimately is, but he has to respect the other pieces that are around. The fact that they have Kylan and Tommy as proven guys, and Z's been someone that's going to be older in college basketball as well. Does the fact that a number of those are Balkans, does that help? Probably doesn't hurt with his dad being a Serbian basketball legend, but yeah, I think all those things. I think it's the basketball fit is probably the biggest and most obvious thing that presents why these two were a great marriage, especially from Andre's side. And as you go into it, maybe some of the connections with O and the Balkan side of it certainly maybe icing on the cake.
All right, we are live on YouTube. If you have any super chats, any questions, we'll get to some of those later on. We do apologize. We had some family stuff. I had to take my daughter to piano lessons. Derek had to take Kay to the zoo today. Looks like you got some sun there, Derek.
I did. Yeah.
Was it a good day with Kate?
It was a great day. Yeah, my son turned 3 today. So I couldn't.
Derek Piper since when? Cade's third birthday. Stoyakovich commits, so that's done.
Yeah, we just had to get to a big family event to get that thing done. But we were in the car driving to the zoo when the news broke, as is tradition here. So it's funny on the message board the last few days. It's kind of like an inside joke of, all right, I'm gonna be the guy that gets on the flight, and this will be when the commit. Apparently, I just had to go to the zoo, so I could have done that last week maybe. But
so next
yeah.
year we're going through the same thing. Piper, get your ass to the zoo. That's what we're
doing. Yeah. We saw the monkeys. We rode the train. He had a great day, and Illinois fans having a great day too. So that's good.
Yeah, who had a better day, Cade or the Illini fans out there? I think this is Bojangles. I'm going to say Philippe, since I know he's Balkan. So he said never a doubt, except for those few hours where I definitely had some in the portal thread. Boz and the Balkans are going to be incredible to watch, and hashtag the patio will have taken its place in Illinois lore. Is that referring to Peja and Brad drinking a fine? I don't know. Pinot Grigio would be my guess for them.
Yes. The word that I had heard was them on a back patio somewhere. It was late at night. They were watching the T-Wolves and the Lakers playoff game, and Peja and Brad sharing some wine together. So that's an epic scene set. I wish I could actually been there in person, but yeah, that's some aura, as the kids say. Pretty cool.
We should have Bojangles on the podcast at some point to break down all of this with the Balkans. But yes, Peja has got an interesting background. Obviously, grew up in Yugoslavia, in Croatia, but he's Serbian ethnicity, and he's actually Greek because he married a woman from Greece. That's where Andre was born, which is still Balkan in Greece. So, wow, they are loaded with Balkans. And one we haven't talked about here, along with the Ivicic twins and David Mirkovic, because to be honest with you, to take people behind the scenes, I was like, Derek, I don't know if we should do a podcast on Mihailo Petrovic yet, because Andre might commit the next day or two. So let's do it all in one. Probably should have just done one on Mihilo, but here we go. Mihailo Petrovic, 22 years old, Derek, and he's an MVP candidate in the Adriatic League, averaged 14 points, 7 assists, just 2 turnovers, had a game winner today that was unbelievable burst and acceleration with the handle. This is a really stealthy addition. So how did this come about to get Petrovic and prioritize him?
I think you got to start with the agent. Misko, I wrote the last name down is tricky for me. Raznatovic, but we'll go with Misko, the very high profile Serbian agent, same agent as both Tommy, Big Z, Mirkovic, and if you want to go to the NBA level, I mean, the high end Nikola Jokic is also a rep by him. So Petrovic, one of his clients, a very good relationship with Orlando Antigua and Illinois through the way they were able to get Tommy and develop him, and obviously Big Z being his client as well, coming over to Kentucky through as recruitment. So I think that, again, Illinois' preference on getting older. I think also, I don't know as far as, would this have happened if Illinois was able to open and shut recruit Adam Miller and be able to get that thing done as they tried to on the front end, but that
who still has not landed anywhere.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Go forward with Petrovic.
Yeah, I know. We can circle back to that, but it's wild that you have the opportunity to land someone this old, but experienced in professional basketball, but comes from that same league. You look at the Adriatic League, and he plays in the that they played SC Derby today. Played against Mirkovic, same team as Tommy and Big Z back when they were playing for him. But as far as the skill set goes, I mean, you watch on film, and like you said, great burst off the dribble. He can get to wherever he wants to go off the bounce because of his speed. And I think you wonder too, the competition level, as you evaluate that transition to college basketball, he's played against a lot of former college standouts, a number of guys that had cups of coffee in the NBA, and there will of course be some kind of adjustment for him. But I think the speed is real, the pace is real. He's a ball screen maestro. He's a guy that grades out exceptionally well, playing in ball screens, making reads, being able to get to the rim, and he is somebody that just has feasted in the paint. I think again, 5-out offense, bigs that stretch it out will open up the paint for him to go downhill and make plays, and him being able to be a real playmaker, which I thought this team was short on
Yeah.
leading into here recently until this addition was made, that they didn't have another guard that could really take on the point guard role or provide as even a secondary option to Kylan Boswell. Even if they had that, I thought that would have been a positive development. But 14 points, 7 assists per game in the Adriatic League. I mean,
Just to
that's
compare that, I mean, Tommy averaged 7 points in the Adriatic League. He came over, look what he did. And then you look at guys that Fletcher McGee is averaging like 12, 13 over there.
yeah,
McKinley, right? You showed a great clip in your What It Means of, Petrovic just completely owning McKinley, right, on a dribble and drive to the lane. So he's doing it against grown men, guys who have really been doing it at a high level. So I don't think we should look over that Adriatic League. It is translated well for Illinois so far. And I mean, this guy's skill set fits what they want. Obviously, there's going to be athleticism, there's going to be length in the Big Ten, but I did think they needed another primary playmaker because we saw Kylan Boswell be able to do that, but he's mostly been a two guard at this level. I would have loved to have added Adam Miller and a combo guard off the bench, but I just don't think the budget is there. So this makes sense, especially offensively, Derek. Now, what can he do defensively? I have concerns about, but this offense with him, like, lets Kylan Boswell kind of do what Kylan Boswell does, and he's just going to have so much space to operate and dice up a defense here.
Yeah, you said it with Kylan. I think a guy that definitely late last year took strides in terms of being able to be an action guy and get in the lane and make good plays, and obviously finish at the rim a lot better than he did earlier in the season. But still, he's been a combo guard who is more of a secondary action guy. I think that in transition, if he can really get going, that can help this team be able to do that. And you hope it helps benefit both Kylan and Petrovic, players that can be comfortable on and off the ball. Petrovic, though, just a very natural playmaker. So without him, I know that I was doing some digging here recently, and the roster hadn't been finalized, and there were still wants and abilities to add to it. But I was asking around, like, what's the plan for backup point guard? And someone, over there at Ubben told me Ty Rogers. I said, oh, okay. He's done some of that, but I didn't take that as a super encouraging answer. Yes, it could be spot minutes. No, I haven't seen Ty Rogers play in an entire year, but this is a totally different situation of, again, like a legit, a true point that can handle pressure, you would think, that can bring the ball up, that can make others better. And you're not really trying to force somebody in a role that they haven't been. And I think even you could venture to say, as far as Kylan being a full-time 30 to 35 minute a game point guard, that's something he hasn't done in college quite yet, but you hope he can take a stride in terms of consistency and off the dribble game.
Yeah, somebody asked on the live chat how much eligibility or what eligibility he'll be year-wise. We don't know that. This is what the interesting thing is. I mean, this guy's 22. He's been playing professional basketball for 3 or 4 years. So the NCAA has allowed this for the most part. But Tommy came in after, a year or two of playing professionally and came in as a sophomore. I would imagine he's going to have limited eligibility, but I would imagine Petrovic is coming here because he thinks he's going to be here for a short time, and I'm sure Illinois does as well. What I'm interested in is kind of the rotation of that backcourt now. Like, who starts will be interesting. Is it Ty at the 2? Is it Kylan at the 2? Is it Kylan at the 1? Is it Petrovic? Or whatever it is. I do like Ty with the ball in his hands as a secondary playmaker, but I don't like him a lot as the backup point. Like, if that was the plan, I didn't like that. But I do think Ty is still going to play such a huge part on this roster, Derek, because your plan kind of was at one point Adam Miller to be a combo guard and give you some defense. Ty's got to fill some gaps defensively with Petrovic coming in here, and maybe even Andre can battle defensively, but guarding guards, I think Ty's going to do a lot of that this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Defensively and rebounding is still two things that Ty can really inject in this team. And I think, we've mentioned a number of times with him, if the matchups are more ideal for him, ultimately, can he finally become that plus defender that he was profiled to be, coming out of high school and into this level. So I think that was part of a reason why he was on the USA junior national team, because he was a good defender and he was just a good role player around star higher usage guys. So Brad told us when we were there at Coaches versus Cancer in Gordyville that Ty's going to be one of the most versatile players in the Big Ten. I think now you don't have to ask him to slot in at that point spot, but probably anywhere 2 through 4. I could see him being the 4-man still in some lineups. I know you're more stacked there, especially as I think we're going to get to talking about Ben Humrichous and possibly, and I think likely being back in this rotation on this team. So, but certainly, yeah, defensive matchups, rebounding, and with the spacing that you have, you don't run into now a 5-man in Merez Johnson who can't really play with Ty Rodgers anymore. The fact that you've got legit, at least capable shooters, obviously Tommy and Z, proven plus shooters on the perimeter in the front court. You can have a guy like Ty be in the dunker spot, be a cutter, and those are some things that he fits a lot better, and he's still going to be valuable even with, Petrovic coming into the fold as well.
You mentioned the cutting. Andre pretty good at that too. I'm sure you mentioned that at some point, but like he's going to get a lot of easy buckets from that. I mean, think about guarding this, Derek, and I know I plan to get in this a little bit later, but this offense, just so many problems that you got to deal with when trying to guard this team. When you have Petravic handling Boswell with his size and his strength, we saw how he could get to the rim and operate in that ball screen, with Tommy, who can just dice you up as a passer, roll to the rim and dunk it, shoot it really well. Zvonimir's another one that can do that. And then Ben Hurmichous, we'll talk about him potentially returning, shooting the threes. Mirkovic, Stojakovic cutting, Stoyakovich being able to shoot. Like this is a lot of skill and size offensively.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's going to be a nightmare for teams to try to cover all the options and all the different things they can do, along with the space that they can really put out there. And of course, to maximize that space, you need this to be a better 3-point shooting team than it was last year. I don't think they'll be as reliant on the three, at least based on the way that things have come together, because Stoyakovich is someone that really puts rim pressure out there and can be able to go inside the arc and body some people up and make a lot of his offensive hay ultimately in that range. Petrovic off the dribble and having that burst. So, like you said, it's a team that I think it complements it well. It's a front court that was really emphasized to have the shooting and to get Tommy, rolling forward on what he did last year. Add Z in there and have the ability to just be he's really a premium shooter as a 5. I mean, there aren't a lot of guys that are probably more proven as a 3-point shooter than he is at the 5 spot in college basketball. Yes, his consistency has to go across a full season. We'll see how Mirkovic shoots it. He's capable. I think he can play some booty ball too, and again, that will play into the spaced out dynamic of this offense and maybe hunting some more matchups. This might be more of like a 23-24 type of offense in terms of like the method they want to do is hunt those matchups, get some ISOs and maybe the mid post, play some booty ball. But I think you also have just guys that can, and Petrovic can play pick and roll and get in the lane and make things happen. So, and hopefully, I think transition is still something that we'll see if they can turn that into a real staple again of who they are. But Petrovic, his pace off the dribble, Kylan, his pace off the dribble, those are some things. And Mirkovic has shown even in the Hoop Summit that he can grab a rebound and take it up the court. And I think that Andre can do that as well. There's a lot of interchangeable pieces and skilled guys, and yeah, the offense is going to be a wagon. I think Bart Torvik. I did in my what it means for Stoyakovich. I was having fun with the way too early numbers, and you throw Stoyakovich in there with Humrichous, and they're right now the projected third best offense in college basketball. It's still really early, but that just kind of gives you a snapshot of what the metrics think, and along with as we piece it together in our minds too.
Can the defense be better? Like, do you think the defense is better with Boswell, Ty Rodgers returning? Just the whole team, like 4 or 5 actual returners from this team, and then just having older guys like Stoyakovich, like Petravic, like Big Z, who's a big presence defensively. Like, how much better? I think they'll be better defensively. I just don't know how much better.
I think that's the landing spot for me too. And because they're older, we've talked about this a little bit too, that there are individual upgrades, I feel like, when you talk about, and I think you brought this up with Stoyakovich, will be an upgrade over Will Riley as a defender. I think that Ty Rodgers certainly an upgrade over, if you count him, whether he's against KJ. Maybe if you're talking Trey White, it might be a little bit differently, but just a different comparison. He could still be a better defender than Trey, as far as that goes. You are losing something with Merez being out, especially in terms of who Merez was supposed to be as a sophomore. And as you think about him becoming just another, a more experienced version of what we saw last year. And I think I liked having a different piece in the front court who could guard some things
Yeah.
a little more versatily.
Because Mirkovic, I think, really gives you some of that toughness and physicality and rebounding. He's just not as athletic and quick as Merez. Right. He's not going to, besides just being tall, he's not going to really protect the rim, but Z does. We know Z does at a high level. So it's a really interesting front court, because I do think in total they've gotten better because they're older and they got some longer guys, but just not a lot of quickness and athleticism outside of some of the guards.
Yeah, that's going to be something that you're really going to wonder about. There's going to be a lot of stress, I think, on the perimeter when you're going to be stuck pretty much having to play drop coverage. And you probably don't, whether you're going to play Mirkovic at the 4, if you're going to play Humrichous at the 4, along with one of the Avicic twins at the 5. I mean, you're not going to switch probably, even 1 through 4. Obviously, not even 1 through 5. So that when you don't switch, you put a lot of onus on the guards and the wings to get through screens and then to really guard their yard and make sure that while they're running actions to free guys up and the really athletic defenses or the really versatile ones just switch things and cut off angles that way. You're going to ask Kylan to do a lot of that himself, and Ty hopefully can be better at screen navigation, lateral quickness. Petrovic, I don't worry about lateral quickness, but he is somebody that is he going to be a good defender? I also think, just a real quick side note that I threw in my what it means. I don't think he's 6'3". I think he's probably closer to 6'1".
Yeah, he's small. That's what I get concerned about with him. Somebody's going to booty ball him. Somebody's going to try and get matchups on him. But he does have quickness. He can probably get into people's grill. I just, I haven't broken down the Adriatic League tape probably like you have, Derek, to get a feel of if he could be I don't know, even an Andre Curbelo type defender that at least makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know. In the game I watched against McKinley Wright, I wouldn't say that they were trying to hide him. They didn't put him on McKinley defensively. While McKinley guarded him every possession on the offensive end, they put him on a wing and used a different. They probably maybe had a plus defender that could guard, that action a little bit better and trust it a little bit more. And he is 22. He's older in college basketball terms, but that still could be a situation where they wanted, whether it be an older veteran on McKinley or just a more defensive capable guy as far as that goes. If they can execute drop coverage, which they're going to be sitting in really well, if they can play the numbers game, and Brad will obviously tell us a ton about mid-range twos, tough twos that they're going to force. If they can do that, and that's going to be their method. I mean,
yeah, shoot 35% from 3 this year instead of 30% or 29%, which they shot last year.
Right. I just don't think you're going to change. You're not going to change who Tommy is, who Z is, as far as their lateral quickness, their ability to come up in ball screens and stuff. But I do think Z, with his shot blocking around the basket, if you can force guys into that area and he's there, and that's something that he obviously thrives at. So how much better it will be, I think you could even question if you want to, of will it be better? But offensively, I mean, they'll be a team that you're going to have to score with, obviously. And those have been, there have been examples of that. Bama a couple years ago, even BYU this past year when they were hot and they put 100 on you, and yeah, you could score 90. You're going to have inevitably people be like, oh, we're Iowa Platinum or whatever it might be, but
that's not terrible, right?
Yeah, right.
Platinum offense, pretty damn good.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. It'll be a fun team. It's got a lot of an offensive ability. We'll see defensively. There's some questions for sure.
I want to get into this the Balkan market here in a second, but Ben Hurmichous today on Instagram, right as this was going down, tweets out a lock emoji, and he tagged it with Illinois. It was kind of a mutual thing. It looks like he's returning. It has sounded like for the past month he's returning. Brad Underwood told me that he wants him to return. I've asked for just triply, quadruply confirmation that he is returning. It is not official yet. So everyone asking, is it official? No, because I've asked, can I officially say that he has announced his return? And I've not gotten a response. So, but Ben Hurmichous certainly seems like he is returning, Derek, because he is not in the transfer portal. And there is no like grad transfer rule anymore. It's the same transfer portal window for everybody. So if he's playing college basketball next year, it's at Illinois. He's working out at Illinois. He's got a lock emoji Instagram photo. Ben Hurmichous, I'm sure, is returning to Illinois. So what do we think?
Are we sure he wasn't just locked into wearing the upside down headband going forward? Maybe that's what he's locked into.
And completely shaved head. New look here for Ben Hurmichous.
Yeah, right. But no, like you said, everything that I've heard, especially here recently from that kicking cancer event and on, Brad mentioned in that answer talking about how they're going to be an older team and threw in Ben's name as part of the process of becoming older with this upcoming roster, him being part of it. I've talked to some staff members, those around the program as well, who all say that this is happening. Like he is intending on coming back, and they're pushing in that direction as if it's happening. I don't know if they need are they waiting on a waiver to get approved? I thought that this was clear that if anybody that wanted to come back who had non D1 experience was just going to be through the Pavia announcement, just a clear cut case, but. Yeah, him being back, I like it. I think that it makes total sense as soon as that really came to light early in the offseason that Illinois was going to really, Brad said even before the season was over, I asked him going into the Big Ten tournament, are you going to make an effort to bring Ben back? He said we should. And I think as a role player, as a guy that maybe doesn't have a ton of guarantees in terms of what that's going to look like, but being a 23-year-old who can shoot the three, yes, needs to do it more consistently. But does a year help him as far as now having the adjustment of what this level looks like, being more consistent, maybe upping the confidence, whatever needs to happen for him to just be more of a guy night in and night out that just won't have those lows that he had this past year. And I think that Illinois isn't like putting it all make or break on him. If he's not a different player, they've got pieces in the front court that can help them to pivot to Mirkovic and but on the flip side, if Mirkovic takes some time as a 19-year-old in a new conference, new league, Ben can help as far as that goes. So I like it. No, I mean, if you're talking about the difference in another piece you could have added, like could have been a really athletic, maybe type of 4-man that or 4/5 that comes in and just gives you something different. I understand the interest there, but as far as how much that would cost, I think you'd be probably taking more of a roll of the dice on what that might look like. But they love Ben around the program. They think he's got a chance to take a step forward, and it seems like that's a decision that's really just a matter of time until it becomes public.
Yeah, and I just think he played pretty well at the end of the regular season when he was in the role he probably should have been, which is kind of this bench piece. He can give you 20, 25 minutes. I think a pretty good basketball. I don't think he'll be counted on that now that you got Z and Mirkovic, but the guy can shoot. Like, I know he had some bad games and some bad stretches. He was still one of their best shooters. And if he just improves a tick, I think he can be a very valuable piece, a bench piece for this team. So I think in that role, I think he can really thrive and get better and be valuable. And I think he can be a guy that gives you double digits in certain nights when he's hitting. So just make 38% of your threes. I feel pretty good about Ben Hurmichous next year. And I would bet on that. I would bet on him being able to do that. So him returning, I think, could be really good for Illinois. I was just going down this list. Ben Hurmichous will be 23 during the season. Kyle Boswell, he just turned 20 on April 18th. That is insane to me. Ty Rodgers, 21. Ivisic twins, 22. Stoyakovich, 21. Petravic, 22. Mirkovic, 19. Jake Davis, how old is Jake? He would be 21 when the season starts. He's 20 right now. Turns 21 in November. I like that a lot better, Derek.
Yeah.
Get old, stay old. And this team, I know somebody asked, is this a 2-year plan? I don't know, because Tommy might go to the NBA. If Stoyakovich, everything went well, maybe he goes to the NBA. Maybe Petrovic cashes in and goes to Barca or something like that after this year. So you never know, but you got old guys and guys with multiple years of eligibility on this team. This is more towards the 23-24 roster construction than last year.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Petrovic will turn 23, I think, definitely by the time the postseason play rolls around. So it is reminiscent of building around two big pieces that come back, similar to 23-24. No, you don't have a Terrence Shannon Jr. in terms of a guy that becomes an All-American, and most likelihood, as far as that goes. But looking at this is probably, Kylan's out of eligibility after this year. Tommy, you've thought that, 2-year plan. Would he be interested if the depending on what the pro opportunities look like, and what his brothers look like as well, would they be interested at all in another year at Illinois? I mean, Illinois would love to entertain it and love to see what that ultimately looks like. But most likely, it's been thought of, yeah, Kylan and Tommy's last ride. Let's build around them with veteran pieces, and obviously it'd be the last ride for Humrichous. Maybe you only get the NCAA to say Petrovic is only eligible for 1 year. I think 2 years probably the max as far as that would go.
That's how I put my very unofficial scholarship chart. I just put him as a junior, and I put a star, and I said eligibility not yet determined, but I can't imagine he gets more than 2 years.
I wouldn't think it would be more than two. And I think you'd be happy with one if you were Illinois. I think you'd be good with that. So, yes, the veteran presence is really, yeah, it jumps off the page when you look at it, and it's something that you love, that a lot of these guys now, even when you had some, a Humrichous last year who was an older guy, but had never played at the high major level. Tommy was a little bit older, obviously at 21, but he'd never played in college. So now you get Tommy and Z, both guys that are pretty well established in college basketball, know what this is about, and what to expect. You've got the ability to have Stoyakovich be somebody again. I mean, he's now, I think, in his individual case, not only has he played now going into his third year in college, but he's been the guy already. He's been a high major primary player, top of the scouting report type of player. That it reminded us kind of, not saying he's going to be Terrence, but it took Terrence a year at Illinois kind of to be the alpha before he actually was a really effective one, right? Like a really consistent one. So that's something too that he could take a jump with, because now he's in that second year of being the guy, or one of the guys. Stanford, he was just kind of a role player, reserve, off the bench. So that's where something could be different with him too.
I've said the stat before, but with Boswell, Tommy, Ty Rogers, Jake Davis, and Ben Humrichous returning, you'd have 44.6% of your minutes returning from last season. That is almost the exact same as the 23-24 season, and way higher than 2.8% last year with Dre Gibbs Lawhorn. But that doesn't even count Ty Rogers, who played 863 minutes on the Elite Eight team. So you add him to that, Derek, and it's like 60% minutes continuity. And then you went and added a lot of talent, right? You added Big Z, you've added Stoyakovich, you add Petrovic, you add Mirkovic. Let's step back for a second. It's a heck of a month and a half for Brad Underwood and his staff. And Orlando Antigua's got a lot of these connections. This is why you paid Orlando Antigua a lot to come back last year. I know there's so much fretting in the minutes and in the days and in the weeks of this portal. Step back for a moment, and we'll talk about if they add any more. But this is a heck of an offseason of retention and addition so far for Illinois, to give yourself a roster that could be one of the better offenses nationally, but looks, again, Derek, like this is going to be a Big Ten contender, a team that we're going to talk about as a top 5 Big Ten team.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. That's a great point. I think that there was a lot of fretting on the retention side, because retention was said to both of us as the season went down the home stretch of, it's going to be so highly emphasized and prioritized, and then immediately you lose Morez Johnson and Trey White, and like, oh no, like the 2-year plan, or just kind of what you said was going to be maybe the biggest mission, or one of, towards the top of the priority list, is already, I wouldn't say in peril, but it's not what you hoped. You lost two guys that you would think you'd want to keep. you get into the details of how much money guys are asking for, what roles guys are asking for, and you understand why there are just a point where you allow the breakup to just happen, or you're not going to fight for something that isn't going to be good for your side of it either. So, but you kept Kylan and Tommy, who I thought were the most important pieces, and obviously the staff felt were the most important pieces to be able to keep, and then to go out there, yes, and be able to get an A level Stoyakovich, who I think you look at the 24/7 portal rankings, he's not in the same range as Yaxel Lendenborg and Bennett Sturts and Donovan Dent, who go to UCLA, and they're all the top 10 guys in the portal. But I don't think it would surprise anybody if Stoyakovich comes here and he's an all Big Ten guy, maybe even a first teamer. He's got that upside to be able to be that. So I think he is an A1 type of ad, and you go off the beaten path, or just go away from our attention where we look at the portal, and being able to get Petrovic and Mirkovic is exciting and talented. So
Yeah, we're going to look at these transfer portal rankings. It's not going to include those guys,
right?
Like Big Z is a top 50 transfer. Andre's a top 40 transfer, and I would argue Andre could even be higher than that. But those are the only two guys that count. It's still going to be pretty good transfer portal haul when you look at the rankings. There's not many transfers though that they've added, because you went over to the Balkans and got these two guys who aren't going to play a factor into that. So, take all that with a grain of salt. The rankings are fun. They're not perfect to do. And this wasn't a perfect off season, right? I mean, Bryce Johnson, losing him, I think still can sting. I got questions defensively, but again, you're just putting together a roster that can do some damage in the Big Ten and potentially in the NCAA tournament.
For sure. Yeah, it should be expected to be that. No doubt about it. And I was having, back to the Bart Torvik fun that I was having a little bit here, and you add in Stoyakovich, you add in Humrichous, and yes, there are still some moving pieces that need to happen in college basketball. 5 of the top 10 transfers still haven't committed, so those are going to move the needle in terms of where teams are at. But going into today, Illinois was 19th in the country, just based on, without Stoyakovich, without Humrichous, and they're not factoring in Petrovic either, or Mirkovic. Those guys haven't signed, but also once they do, there's not as much for Bart Torvik to plug in there in terms of like efficiency numbers that are going to correlate. Probably, I don't know what that's going to look like. Maybe deeper in the summer he will have that accounted for. But just going Stoyakovich and Rickhouse, and what we have right now, Illinois 7th in the country as far as the preseason metrics. Yes, the way too early preseason metrics, but that says 3rd in the Big Ten, only Purdue and Michigan ahead of you. If Yaxel Lendenborg stays in the draft, which sounds like a pretty decent chance that he would do that, that they would fall from that, and you'd be right there with Purdue as the second one. So it is an inexact science. It is, again, like preseason numbers. It's only one reference point. And Mike Latulip made a good point on Twitter recently, that you look at where Indiana was ranked in the portal rankings last year and where West Virginia was. So I think it's important to look at, or to understand, we don't know how all these are going to fit yet, or in terms of translating. But I feel
unlike Indiana, these pieces actually fit. On paper, like you sit there and look at the roster and goes, yeah, like all those pieces make sense. Yeah, you could probably, ideally, in an ideal world, you'd love to have a 3-and-D guard, right? You'd love to have an Adam Miller type. I just don't know, Derek, if the budget is left, or can you keep everybody if you add another piece? I mean, you can't enter the portal anymore, so I guess so. But I just don't know if you add another cook to the kitchen here, or if you have the financial resources, probably the bigger one, because you'd love to add Adam Miller. I just don't know if you have that kind of money kind of hanging around there. So I have doubts they'd add anybody else. What do you think?
I'm with you. I think when you factor in AJ Red, still you got 13 players, and you can have up to 15. From a money standpoint, it's been said to me that I think they're pretty well maxed out. I think a lot of teams at this point are pretty well maxed out. Now, you haven't seen the settlement go into effect quite yet, so technically, as far as it's been understood, that NIL is still not subject to the third party overview and all that. So it's still open season to what you have NIL wise tonight. Maybe, you could get a call in the morning, or you make the call and have somebody contribute. It could, more money could appear, and it not have to be, okay, is this market value? Okay, is this is this fair within the new construct of what it's going to be? But I think that Illinois spent a lot of money on this roster. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they spent in the $9 million range. I think they're probably just below that viewed top tier of, I think Jeff Goodman said recently or tweeted recently, probably 15 programs are going to spend $10 million plus. I mean, I think they're probably right below that. I don't know that number to be, exact, but I could easily see how it's $8 to $10 million. So I don't think they have a lot of money left to spend. Maybe there's some change to throw at somebody, but it feels like it would be at a major bargain. And but there are still a lot of names in the portal who are going to need a home, and maybe someone would come at a discount and be willing to make some real NIL, whatever that future looks like. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It feels like they're pretty well set as of now, barring maybe one more piece. If that, I want to throw it back to you. What piece would you want? Is it a shooter?
3 and
Is
D.
it a
I
plus
need
athlete?
defense and shoot.
Yeah,
Those are the two things I need. A guy who, as you said, like if you're going to sit in this drop coverage, which they are married to with the Ivasic boys here, you need guards that can get into people, get over screens. They didn't have that last year, right? Like Will Riley and Kaspers were not that. I thought Kaspers really battled. It's just he's a big body. He's not the quickest guy. Like it's hard for him to do that. And it put Boswell in a lot of tough spots. Like Boswell was better when they started to hedge a little bit, right? Like he was able to do that. So if he's got another guy to help him with that, I think that would really help. So yeah, and Adam Miller would have made so much sense. And if the price came down for whatever reason, Illinois can find money, like I think he'd make a lot of sense as a guy who can shoot the ball and play defense and knows his role. But boy, if you add somebody, they better be bought into that, right? And I think these freshmen, Brandon Lee and Keaton Wagler, know it's going to be a year before they make an impact. So I'm not concerned about that. And the goal is to win every year at this program. So I wouldn't fret at adding somebody like that. It's just, his price, what we knew it as, doesn't make any sense right now. And Dame Sarr, like it'll be interesting to see where he goes now with Cowher going to Duke, who's a really good transfer. We talked about him a couple weeks ago as a possibility for Illinois. Is it Oregon? Where's he going to go? But he's really talented, but I know he wants a big role, so that doesn't fit here either.
I'd love to have another $2 to $3 million and make that thing happen. But yeah, as far as
might take the piece, right?
Yeah, make the pieces work. That would be tough. I feel like you bring Petravic in, there's a good chance he's going to start with Kylan. You're just going to go 1 and 2, and Stoyakovich at the 3. Decide what you want to do at the 4. Are you going to start with the Twin Towers? You're going to throw Mirkovic in there if he's ready. Maybe it's Ty. So I think a lot is pretty well solidified. You don't want to. There is such thing as adding maybe a little bit too much or overlapping and having some discontent. And you wouldn't want a guy that would be expecting too much or be somebody that would rock the boat as far as that goes. There's certainly, again, like you said, could be a need for an athlete, a good defender, maybe a shooter.
There's a Harmon out there right now that didn't cost a lot of money, cost, what Jake Davis cost last year, which
right.
I don't know if that cost is out there anymore. Like that's a guy I'd like. It's I don't know how many of those guys are out there.
For sure. And we'll see. Maybe, you'd hope Brandon Lee, who's thought to be a little bit more ready to compete early than Wagler. Maybe he can provide you a little bit of a punch. He's at least physically stronger than what you think a lot of freshman guards would be coming in, but not a lot of guarantees. And you didn't want them there to be, as far as those guys needing to come in and move the needle. And I think with Petrovic and obviously you knew you were going to add a stud big guard wing, and you did that with Stoyakovich. So that's all good news. What happens if Will Riley wants to come back? That's what some people want to know. What do you do?
Call up the biggest donors you got and get him back. I just think that's not happening.
Yeah, I'm with
you. Right, like with Stoyakovich here, it's clear that is not happening. He's going to be a first-round pick, and I trust Jonathan Gavoni and how he looks at these things, and he's got him top 20. Most people have him top 25. You're going to have 2 one-and-done draft picks, and that's awesome for Illinois.
Yep. So. I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think you're not going to have to cross that bridge. I think you're good.
All right. I want to close talking about this because we hear prices of some of these quality starters in college basketball, and Illinois seems to have found this market inefficiency going overseas. Now, you're starting to see some other schools get into the Eastern European market. I guess our Rutgers got a kid that I think was Bosnian today, and I'm like, hey, That's Illinois territory. Other people are getting in there, but they seem to have found this inefficiency with the Balkan market. I mean, I'll go down this, and sorry, Bujangles, if I mispronounce these names. I'm really working on it now, but Tomislav Ivicic, Zvonimir Ivicic, Mihailo Petrovic, Andrej Stojakovic, David Mirkovic. So you got Montenegro with Mirkovic, Greece with Stoyakovich, Petravic out of Serbia, and Ivicic is out of Croatia. It's pretty amazing that they found this, Derek. I know you knew basketball was being played well over there, but like their talent for how they spent on it seems pretty efficient compared to what you hear other teams are paying for certain guys. So I just think it's really innovative what they've done. I know I've written about it. We've talked about it. Everyone's talking about the Illini Inquirer. Like, this is really interesting to watch. And I think it's been really smart because I do think, Mirkovic wasn't cheap, but he wasn't ridiculously expensive compared to a guy who could be a rotational or potentially starter. Petravic wasn't cheap, but it's a guy that could be a starter on your team that if he was playing college basketball right now might go for double of what he just went for. Now, Stoyakovich was not cheap, but the Ivicic boys, like, obviously not cheap, but I feel like you did get them at a good price. So it's just, I think it's been very smart for them to go this. It's kind of a Moneyball way of doing it. Not that you're not spending anything, but it does feel like the price is a little reduced since they don't play college basketball most.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. It feels like it's a less saturated market too. There's not as many big players over there. There's not as many programs that have invested the time to establish those connections, to get the evaluations that you might need to have to be able to go over there and feel good enough about making those additions. But Illinois has been able to get over there, get connected, and have. I think it plays probably even for Stoyakovich that a guy like Kasparis has the success story that he has, and those things build off of each other. Tommy doing what he did at Illinois last year, to have the same agent as his brother, obviously you're going to have that connection anyway. But for Mirkovic as well, that's something that Illinois is able to build upon. So
Casper,
yeah, I mean,
he was the same as Dame Sars. I know Dame's not in the Balkans, but like,
right.
all those guys talk and all those guys know each other. So yeah, there's just the connections continue to branch out, it feels like.
Absolutely. So that matters, and to that agent also Petrovic as well. So you've got four players by the same agent over there in Serbia that's again really well known, well respected. Illinois is in very good with him, and if Petrovic is averaging 14-7, and say the A10 or whatever, Mountain West, like, which from a comparison wise, would that be all that crazy to think about? Like, he would be.
Who's
Really.
the kid that went to Xavier? The combo guard that was at DeValpo. Just
Oh, yeah.
got paid. Like,
Right.
we heard with some of these, the kid from Montana got paid. Like, this is insane. Like, Petrovic, I feel better about than those additions.
Yeah, there's so many names that cycle through. Who was the guy from, was it Wyoming that Illinois was involved with and had a Zoom with? And
Yeah, now
re
Montana, Wyoming. You're right. I think
or no, I think it was I think you might have been right on Montana. You know what? It doesn't
one of
matter.
those sky schools.
That was $1 million player. Like, that was $1 million to be able to get somebody that played at that level. So, and that's no knock on them. There have been guys, that have made that transition and been very successful. We've seen it out of the Missouri Valley, and with Damask and Lance Jones from Purdue, and Rink Mask, your guy, there at Nebraska. So, but yes, I think that you can get some of these on maybe more of a discount if they're coming out of college basketball. The fact that Illinois got a 21-year-old starting center last offseason in Tomislav Ivicic for probably the price that they pay. I mean, they paid less than $1 million for him, and probably a lot less as far as that goes. I mean, a lot less. So that's something that it was. O was very familiar with that family already. He knew where to go, but that's an avenue that it increases the talent pool. There's more options to be able to evaluate, to target, and you have to feel like this isn't just even maybe a 1 year. This is
Yeah.
Brad at the end of last season. He's very adamant. We're going to continue to go in on Europe, and we're going to continue to push that ball forward. I feel like they're maybe even playing this. They would probably love the roster how it came out, but what will this turn into a year from now, 2 years from now, when other options come up? The basketball around the world is, it's a world sport, and there's a lot of good options in Europe.
You're
And
wondering, I'm wondering how long it takes schools to catch up to it, and like if there's got to be a pivot, or if Illinois is just so in like Gonzaga that it doesn't matter. Like to
right,
beat Illinois out there is tough as beating Gonzaga and Arizona for some of these kids, like it has been. So it was Malik Moore and all right. Both went to Xavier.
yes,
Both those guys, and Xavier played pretty high price for it. So just innovative, and it's led to something. I'm trying to think of a downside. Like, is Chicago going to be upset about it? Maybe. Do I care? Do I care? Like, does Brad Owen? I don't think he cares. Like, yes, you
no,
want to recruit Chicago. You got Terrence Shannon. You got Io DeSumo. That's what I come back with him with. All right, you don't want to go here, but hey, come here and you can be Io and Terrence, two guys with their jerseys in the rafters. Like, it's an easy comeback for them. Like, we've done it, and if you guys want to come here, that's fine. Like, but they did that with Merez, and look what it got him there. Merez only stayed for 1 year, so they want to recruit Chicago, and I think they still will prioritize that. But man, when you can get ready-made men who are ready to buy into this and play the system they want, keep doing it.
absolutely, yeah. And you said it there with Merez Johnson, Illinois. I'm sure that the Merez camp obviously has had their grievances with Illinois, and I felt, probably some jealousy towards Tommy in terms of, where each other were in the pecking order and how they were prioritized by the staff and all of that. But, again, we don't have to go down that road as far as who
Right.
each player is.
20 minutes a game as a freshman.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Really
So,
good offensive player. Yeah.
yeah, and there is just now Chicago, if there's going to be another Io DeSumo, you want that guy. If there's going to be another Terrence Shannon, you want that guy, obviously.
The problem is
But
those guys don't hang around the state anyway.
that's right. We
They
just
all
saw
leave.
Davion Thompson go to a different high school. So that is obviously happening and part of the factor there. And out of high school, too, is his own risk to get guys that aren't ready to make a instant impact, or at least to the upper level where you're going to see it through into multiple years. It'll be tough to keep those guys. So I don't think Brad cares. No, I don't think he cares about it. I'm sure even to be completely frank with you, I'm sure the Adam Miller recruitment, whatever version of this it is even more of a reminder of, yeah, okay, this is what you deal with here, and this player from here, and we can go elsewhere and find talent and maybe and for cheaper. So he's not going to neglect it. He's still going to want it when it's and they have relationships, and like you said, they have selling points. The fact that they continue to win, they continue to be a very nationally relevant program. They have Ayo Dosunmu and Terrence Shannon as glowing examples of what you can do at Illinois, but they don't have to be make or break with the state of Illinois or Chicago or really anywhere, because they've got a lot of options.
All right, Derek, I think we covered it all. An hour long podcast here. We will do one maybe later in the week, or I got a big vacation planned up here because I'm so happy this got done, so I didn't have to worry about it. Yeah, so we'll record something later in the week and maybe get something for next week, just about this entire roster and everything. But I think we covered it all pretty well here. Any final thoughts here?
I need to get my vacation booked. I don't have mine figured out yet, but no, you definitely need to enjoy that, and we'll see. Maybe there's one more piece, but other than that, I think we can sit back and just start to look at what Illinois has and
A
give
big,
credit to the staff.
I got a big question for you to wrap this up. Do I lock and unpin the transfer portal thread? The epic. What are we at? 840 pages now
Yes,
in about 6 weeks. Is it time to lock and unpin that, or do we let it go for a little bit?
maybe go a little bit longer. Right? That's been a lot of people have said they're going to miss it, so I wouldn't be in there expecting some drop of, oh, watch out for this guy, because who knows? I don't know. I'm not saying it won't happen, but We have seemingly run its course in the roster build for the most part. It's been a fun ride. A lot of emotions, people mad, people sad, people angry, happy. But
They're
yeah,
finally happy now. Like, you know, it's
pretty happy.
builds like, hey, that's a nice addition. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? I think people should just step back and look at the roster now. Like, this is where the fantasy draft is over. You look back and say, yeah, that's good. I really like just staring at this roster for a while and dreaming of the possibilities. It's stressful getting through that draft, but at the end, there's so many possibilities.
Absolutely. No, it's a fun ride, and there are a lot of possibilities, and it gives you the opportunity when you're a program that has money, that has appeal, to build it up and be excited about your roster year in and year out, which wasn't always the case. You might say, just based on class balance and those type of things in the old way of building up, that this would be more of a lean year. But last thing I have for you, what are we thinking of the AI generated Rounderwoods?
I did like how Illinois, because it was an Adidas one, right? I like how they went in, took away the middle stripe, put Nike, put Illinois. I love that he embraced it, man. Like it's an identity now. But no, those are fantastic. Like that's where this fan base shows up. Like, have some fun with what you are building here. And I like that he's leaned into that. He or whoever's running his account is done that, but obviously he has approved of that. So I love that. That was fantastic.
Maybe Courtney Bay did that for him. Terrence had the Brad as the profile picture first, so that was pretty cool of Terrence to jump on board with that.
And I tell you what, Coleman Hawkins continues to be an Illini on Twitter, man. Like he is supportive of this program. He
is for sure. So no, that's been fun. The Peja and Brad drinking wine, AI generated, been here for that. And anything, shout out to Bojangles. Anything Bojangles puts together meme wise too. That's must see stuff.
I did go back and watch Once Brothers last week, so I would encourage everybody to do that. Kind of get caught up on the Balkans. It's one of my favorite 30 for 30s with Vlade Divac and Drazen Petrovic. Don't believe related, at least directly, to Mihailo Petrovic. So got to work on these pronunciations, all of that, but we'll continue to work on that. And whenever we get news of when these guys are arriving, I saw plenty of questions about that. Hopefully we get to talk to Brad and some of these players soon, but we'll update you on all of that. But I think we covered it. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Illini Inquirer podcast. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, appreciate more than 500, 600 people watching this live. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe to us. Hit that notifications bell. If you're listening on the podcast, give us a follow, rating, review, wherever you get your podcasts. And check out the latest, as always, at IlliniInquirer.com. Derek has a great What It Means column up already on that. But for Derek, I'm Jeremy. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer podcast.